Record in 3, 2, 1. We are live. Welcome to The Crunch, the only podcast that is a live rewatch of every episode of Family Guy. Welcome to season 13, episode 4. We're back, baby. Let's see what Peter gets into this time.
Oh, man.
Peter Griffin.
And I'm Patrick. This is a podcast where we try to find out if Catholics are funny.
No. This is a Family Guy rewatch podcast.
Sorry. Of course. This is a Family Guy rewatch podcast.
This is a podcast that's about the Fox animation block and nothing else. That's what we're here for.
Do you think there's a rewatch podcast where it's just the guy who plays the deaf man covered in oil and the girl who used to play Meg watching all of the episodes of Family Guy?
I've actually never seen an episode of Family Guy, so I have no clue what you're talking about.
Well, there's a random character that I think is a guy covered in oil. And
I know about Quagmire, and I know about the chicken, and
it's the guy. My joke is the rewatch podcasts are always people who have very little to do with the actual show, it's the girl who the girl who played Meg in season 1 was not Mila Kunis. It was someone else.
I wouldn't be surprised if Seth MacFarlane, who did not die on 9/11, even though he was supposed to be on the flight that hit the tower.
It's actually
I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if he did an episode that was a podcast, and it was like Lois and Chris and the dog and Stewie watching an old episode of Family Guy inside the episode of Family Guy. I mean, they've been on the air for so long.
Does he play all those characters?
I don't know. I'm just saying, like, he's the creator. That's why I said that.
Yeah, I think he plays a bunch of the characters.
He does.
I think he is the Family Guy.
Oh, well, now we're talking.
No, Seth Green plays the fat kid.
The guy who wrote that
I was unjustly compared to in middle school. What?
Oh, what?
The kid, Chris Griffin, who I was unjustly compared to when I was in middle school.
Unjustly?
Nah, it was warranted.
It seems pretty just. I've seen.
I straightened my hair. And it looked exactly like him. It was like,
I've seen photographs. Awful. You put a little hat on. You had those big sneakers. You wore the big sneakers. That's the problem. That was the thing that made you stick out. Was the big shoes,
the big sneakers.
Yeah.
As one kid in my Algebra 1 class, Van, referred to me as wearing. Yeah, he was a big black kid. Yeah, he started roasting. His name was Van.
What was his dad's name? Truck?
I don't know. Probably Van.
Van.
I think it was a family.
So he was called Minivan when he was a kid, when he was a baby.
Yeah, there you go. But he started roasting my kicks, which I later learned is like a thing that happens. And he and a bunch of people kept like pointing at my shoes and like talking about how they were Jesus sneakers. And I was the white kid from a relatively not well off middle class family going, I've never considered what my shoes look like ever before. This is not something that...
The only thing to consider about your shoes is whether or not you can run fast in them up and down the Payless aisles. That's the important thing. Anything other than that is like, what does it even matter if they look good? If you can't outrun your mom in the parking lot after you get them?
It doesn't even make any sense.
It's stupid.
I was like, I feel like I'm experiencing a cultural difference. This is not something that I care about.
Yeah,
I care much more about. What did I care? What's a stereotypically suburban white kid thing to care about? How many Pokemon I have?
Yeah, Pokemon. Getting the newest iPod Touch edition.
I cared a lot about that.
I cared about having the lightsaber app on my phone. That was what I was really into.
I remember thinking, man, if I could get an iPod Touch with 16 gigabytes, think of how much music I could download.
Think of how many apps. Think of how many games.
You can't even download an iOS update if you only have 16 gigabytes left. Like, you can't even.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know. I think it's.
We used to be walking around with flash drives in our pockets.
I think you're biased because you have the 32 gig iPhone, and so you just are always stressing.
I don't have the 32 gigabyte iPhone.
I thought you had the 32 gig. What do you have? The 64?
I think so.
You got the 64.
That's not a lot.
We got to double it up. We got to double up
We really
your
do.
storage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's expense that to the company.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited to get the iPhone 15. You want to know why?
No.
Because they have the USB-C chargers finally.
Oh.
So
you're
Apple
one of
got
those?
sued. Apple got sued in the UK, and
Mhm.
now they have to offer USB-C chargers. And so I'm excited to have all of my devices have one charger. I'm really excited for that.
How many other devices do you have? I've got the
So
one
my
device, the iPhone.
so my headphones have a USB-C, and my Kindle has a USB-C, and so then my phone would have USB-C, and then so when I go on trips, I can just
Mhm.
take one or two chargers.
Wouldn't you only take 2 chargers if you had the USB-C and the Lightning cable? Like,
But I
isn't
can
that
take
also
one,
only 2?
or I can take one or two chargers. I have to take two chargers now.
Mhm. But you
One
would like the option to take 1 or 2.
I
That's
would
the
like the
big thing
option
for
to
you.
take only one, maybe
Huh.
two,
Yeah.
but probably only one.
I think that's fair. See,
Yeah.
I just don't to me,
Or
it's like
one charger that has it split.
if it dies, it dies. That's my
Yeah,
opinion
no,
on
that's true, but, like, when you're
the
going on a
phone.
trip, you need your phone to be recharged.
Mm-mm.
So sometimes boarding passes, become
I
important.
print them.
You
That's what I did
don't.
when we went to the Holy Land. I printed all of them.
Oh, yeah, that's different.
It's not different.
Mhm.
Travel.
You didn't I've flown with you twice. You printed the boarding passes once.
Yes.
You did not print the boarding pass to Chicago.
Yeah, because I knew that it was a short flight. There was no risk of my phone dying.
We killed it traveling together to Chicago.
Easy.
We barely had to wait. Oh man, it was great.
Yeah, I think we're both pretty good at traveling. I will say one thing that I wish that I did better when I traveled was having more episodes of Family Guy downloaded onto my phone and laptop. So it would make recording this podcast a lot easier because then I could like research and take notes and stuff.
There's a genre of television out there. I think there's a genre of every kind of media out there that's just it's made for kids to feel like they're adults.
Marvel movies?
No, that's for adults to feel like they're kids.
Feel like they're kids.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah. The Family Guy and Marvel movie are like the opposite ends of a quadrant.
They are, yeah.
Right? It's like made for kids, watched by kids. Made for adults, watched by adults. Right? It's like there's a spectrum, and it's like Marvel movies are made for kids, watched by adults. Family Guy is made for adults, watched by kids. And I was talking to someone on Twitter was complaining about kids books these days.
Kids books?
Kids books these days are all so and so was an ordinary teenager until it turned out she was a wizard and she went to a magical school. And it's like, okay, it's just Harry Potter. I get it. There's a lot of Harry Potter ripoffs out there. But my friend and I were talking about this because there's a whole the problem with children's television and movies and books is not that it's not that it's tropey. It's that it's smut. I've talked about this in the podcast before, but I was at a bookstore the other day and it was like young adult fiction.
You were getting hot and bothered in the young adult section.
No, there was a young adult fiction section that was labeled spicy.
Oh.
I know.
Weird.
And I was like, I am uncomfortable in this Books a Million. I came in here trying to find a book on business and
why were you in the young adult section if you were looking for a book on business?
So the thing about the sections is that sometimes you walk by one to go to another. This one wasn't just a section. This was like it was like twice as big as the other sections, and it had a big like display, and it was like the shelves were Halloween themed and shaped differently and it said book talk on it, which is like
you got enticed by teen marketing.
It was big and it was there, and I looked over.
That's what marketing is. That's what marketing is. It was big and it was there, and I looked.
It was big and it was there, and I looked at it, and it was young adult bookshelf. Yeah. I was like, oh, what's young adult bookshelf going on? And it was like an entire 5 shelves worth of spicy.
Ugh.
And I was like, this makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
There's a whole genre of fiction that's dedicated to making teens think about sex. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah. As if they don't enough already.
I know.
It's
It's like
like
you're
it's
just
like serving a need that's not really there. You know what I mean?
it's
It's like
insane.
maybe finally once this teen reads my book, then finally he'll start having
I we keep we keep
sexual
talking about
thoughts.
we keep talking about investigate the Catholic Church, look at the hard drives, and fine, go ahead. What you can't hurt us anymore, right?
Mhm.
I want to know what's going on at Penguin Random House.
I
You
don't think you
know,
do. I don't think you do.
I want to know what's going on at that random house.
My thing, this is the last thing I'll say about Family Guy, is that when I was a kid, when I was a kid, I had someone over for a sleepover, which I didn't do very often because our house was not a good sleepover house. There was not a
Been to
door
your
to the
house?
basement. So, no, it wasn't that house, the house we lived in before. So
Oh,
there was no door to the basement. And so like you couldn't like have a rowdy time because
what if the tornadoes got in? Like they would be able to find you.
well, there were doors to like the storage rooms. Like we could have hidden in the laundry room or the storage
Yeah,
room, but there was no like the basement proper, the finished part of the basement
yeah.
was like just straight up. The stairs went straight up into the living room. And so there was no way to
Did you have
like,
like a door to the outside that had like flaps and you could go into the basement from the outside?
no, no, I didn't live in the movie Twister. I hope you understand that. That's not where I, that's not where
When
I
the
came from.
tornadoes lifted up the cows, did they ever go into your roof?
There was a cow that did get misplaced, but not in my roof.
Oh man, that's funny. I
I
gotcha.
lived in the
Yeah,
city, by the way. Like I lived in a cul-de-sac in like a
that's
neighborhood.
fair. That's a
Yeah.
good point.
Like the house that you were at, that you stayed, is 2 minutes away from the house that I grew up in. So it's like not,
Mm.
we're in the
Hmm.
city here. Anyway, so you couldn't get rowdy, but what we could do is after everybody went to bed, you could turn on Family Guy. And I always thought that was like the cool thing to do. It was like, hey, why don't you
Oh
come over?
yeah.
Let's watch Family Guy because it's late at night and my parents are asleep and I don't normally watch this kind of stuff. But it would always be bad, is the thing. Like it was never. It's like we
Not
did it
funny.
because we thought it was cool
Yeah.
because it was rated TV 14, but then it was like,
And you were 12.
and we were like pretending to get the jokes, but we just didn't get it. Or actually, probably there weren't really any jokes to get. So yeah, our time would have been better spent watching Nick at Night, most likely.
Probably. The jokes are that he's fat, penis small. That's the joke.
Yeah,
That's it. Those are
yeah,
the jokes.
yeah. Chicken.
Um, what this reminds me of the time,
Yeah.
non sequitur.
Reminds you of oh, I thought you were like actually
That's
about
the
to launch.
cutaway
I thought you were
gag,
actually
right?
about to launch into something that
No.
reminded you of, and I was like,
Yeah, see,
ready.
it is effective as a storytelling technique.
I was
It's
waiting with bated breath to hear the thing that it reminded you of.
I will say, Family Guy really did predict TikTok. Like, hey, I know you're watching this thing that has like a plot and stuff, but here's something completely different for 30 seconds.
Mhm.
Now back to the other thing.
Yeah.
Like it switches up your attention. Oh, sorry, am I boring you talking
Yes.
about Family Guy?
Yeah.
You
No,
had a
you're not.
tough week. Yeah, you
You're
pass
not.
it to me. You've had a
I
tough
know.
week, right?
You're not boring me. It's just we got a lot going on over here.
Yeah, you got
Late late nights, early mornings.
oh
I'm in a
huge.
high
Yeah.
stress environment.
Uh-huh.
It's okay. I'm just tired. I'm just sleepy. Which is why I asked
Yeah.
our patrons to give us topics so that I wouldn't have to come
Topics.
up with one with my brain.
I like when we ask to give our patrons topics because they're very good at it. They
Yeah.
know exactly what they want to hear.
Can I
Ben
tell you?
Eastman wants us to talk about parish life.
Yeah.
Bagel wants us to talk about conspiracy theories. They really looked at us and they said play the hits.
Can I tell you something that I desire on a deep level?
Yeah, sure.
I would like it so that we never have to come up with a topic again. And our patrons just tell us what they want us to talk about, and then that's what we do. And then people submit dating questions, and then we answer those, and then we talk about whatever we want on the bonus show, which is usually just what's going on in our lives. That's my ideal setup. I never have
That
to
is
plan ever again.
that's the picture of that guy laying in a pond, and
Yeah.
he's like, I am moisturized and thriving.
Mhm.
Like, that's us.
If you want to help me get moisturized, and more importantly, if you want to help me thrive, join over patreon.com/crunch. All you got to do is join at the $5 a month level, and you can submit topic ideas. So if there's something you really want us to talk about, you can join for a month and then quit, and we'll talk about your thing.
And you're good.
And that's it. That's all it takes to buy an episode of this show. So, but interviews cost more. You got to join the $100 a month tier for at least a year. Anyway, so what do you want to tackle first? Do you want to do the parish life thing, or do the conspiracy thing, or do you want to do the housing/community thing? We got 3 little options here.
I do want to talk about the parish thing first.
Okay.
Because that was the thing that I was checking my phone pre-show,
I'll read it to
I
you.
did the thing. I walk into my parents' house. I open the fridge. I try to see if there's anything yummy. There's not, because my mom isn't home, and so they haven't gone grocery shopping. And so I'm like, I'm gonna check, the outside fridge. And while I was checking that, I was reading this, and I already have thoughts. But please read it to me, and I'm gonna
read it. Read it for the people. Question: is there anything practical to do to increase overall reverence at your parish? Many lay people lack reverence, especially during reception of communion. Multiple priests at my parish don't show much reverence when distributing communion, and one of those priests doesn't show a ton of reverence during the liturgy either. It's sad to me, partly because people aren't recognizing whom they're receiving. It's also sad because one of those priests is a retired bishop. We do have one priest who is far more reverent than the others, which is good, but it doesn't make this not an issue. Patrick,
here are my thoughts.
I'm ready.
There's 3 ways you can change things at a parish. All right.
Protest at my out parish, front with signs.
If you're at my
chants and jeers, throwing eggs at the rectory, kidnapping the bishop and demanding a helicopter.
There's 3 ways you can change things at a parish. If you're at my parish, don't listen. Personal holiness and prayer. That's number 1.
Number 1.
So that's something that's available to everybody.
Yes.
And some would say it's effective because it aligns you most with the will of God. And I would say it's a prerequisite. It's a prerequisite for these other 2 ways going well. Now, without prayer, you can change things at the parish with these next 2 methods. But it might not be for the best. So here are the other 2 ways you can change things at the parish.
Number 2,
personal influence. And number 3, money. So if you don't have money, which our friend Britt in this question, she's our age. And so, the amount of money that you may have is not what the kind of money that we're talking about. We're talking about FU money. All right. That's what Franciscan University money. That's what we're talking about. That's not, sorry, did that count as swearing? That didn't count as swearing, did it?
No.
Okay. So you don't have that kind of money. I don't have that kind of money. We probably can't do it. Personal charisma, Riz.
Oh,
perhaps.
Can you riz the parish council to get them to do it?
If you have a kind of personal influence. Now, I'm not talking about like you find the people in the positions of power and you whisper in their ear, tell them what, hey, parish council, let me whisper in your ear, sort of thing.
In order to riz up the parish council, you have to like sing Elvis songs and twirl
you have
an
to
ankle-length
join
skirt.
the parish council.
You have to comb your hair with Brill cream to impress the parish council.
You have
because
to
that's what
join
they did
the
in the
parish council
50s.
And make you have to join the parish council. You have to make them like you. You got to
say, secretary of the parish council, want to come out and get a soda pop with me? I hear that's what you did back in your day. Let's have a sock.
Man, I miss Nixon, don't you? Oh man,
but I remember when the S&P 500 went up every year without fail.
So that's the other way to do it. And again, I'm not talking about like personal relationships the way that a normal. I'm saying someone of extreme influence can change the way things work at a parish. Mm-hmm. So you really have to either pray and grow in personal holiness, or you have to have a lot of money, or you have to have some kind of insane political
You have to
personal
put all of
influence.
your stat points into charisma, is what you
Yeah.
have to do,
Or into wealth. Those are the
or into
two things
wealth.
that will change a
Yeah.
parish. I'm sorry, that's not the answer that you wanted, but that is how the world works. So,
There is no way you can't. You personally can have a conversation with your pastor. You personally can have a conversation with the parish council, maybe. You personally could have a conversation even with the bishop, but that doesn't really matter in the Catholic Church in 2023. Like, there's so many
yeah.
people that have desires that bring to these people, the bishop, the pastor. I would prefer it if things were this way. I would prefer it if things were this way. I would prefer it if things were this way. Your thing is more correct, maybe, than some of the other things that people prefer.
Yeah, knowing you,
But
it
there,
probably is.
but you have to remember that there are just as many people saying, I would love it if women could preach a homily. I would love it if there were more girl altar servers. I would love it if there were more lay people involved in the liturgy. I would love it if there was less Latin.
Yeah.
Like, there's just as many people saying those types of things as there are the people saying, we need more reverence. We need to do things ad orientem. We need to have male altar servers, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like, you're just kind of throwing another branch on the fire that gets burned by the bureaucracy of nothing that is the Catholic
Yes.
Church.
Yeah.
So,
So, like, the issue is that you could obviously, for people our age, so the oftentimes the people our age that want to see some kind of change to the parish, they recognize that, okay, so I work an entry level job at a consulting firm, and so
at
I have
McKinsey
so I definitely am not going to be able to
or
move the needle much
Deloitte.
on major gifts. Yeah, those are two of the four.
Yes. I'm
Mackenzie
just
Deloitte.
trying to provide a personal connection maybe with some of our listeners to let them know that I'm
Sure,
in on their world. You know what I
I get
mean?
it. You sound
Yeah.
like me trying to make a sale. I'm like, yeah, like, how most people in the car industry, me trying
Oh,
to
you're a plumber.
demonstrate and
I got a couple U-bends in my house, that you have some in your car, truck.
I
Anyway.
I had one that really worked. I forget what it was, but it was just like I had a realtor friend tell me some kind of like common problem realtors face, and I made a joke about it in a meeting, and a realtor thought it was really funny. I know
Nice.
that's like a super non-story because it didn't have any substance, but anyway.
Yeah.
So oftentimes people our age are like, "Oh, well, I'll just go the influence route," and like the only way you're gonna do that is it takes time, and it takes like I've been at this parish for I've been at this parish for 30 years. Now, like, I happen to have a little bit of an advantage at my parish because at my parish, I just so happened to be born there and my family's been members forever. But my
Mhm.
family were not influential members of my parish forever. And so that generational push doesn't actually put much but I have in moments of anger said my grandfather is buried in the backyard. Um, like so I have some of that. But like when it comes to real when we're talking about real influence at a parish,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
It's like you have to gather people and get them on your team and like, really, really have them all on board too. And the problem with that is the same problem with money and influence. And I said you can do whatever you want at a parish if you have money or influence, but that does not guarantee that it's correct. That does not guarantee that it's a good thing, even if it's a holy, reverent thing. That does not guarantee it's a good thing if you don't have prayer and if you don't have personal holiness. Some people at my parish did exactly that. They gathered the whole cohort, they rallied around, we want this priest to be our pastor. And they got they got something changed at the parish, all right. They got that priest moved because the bishop was like,
Hmm.
Um, and so like you really gotta be careful because you don't you your will is good and it's in the right place. But the change that you want to make is above your pay grade. And like if you get to the point in your life where you have the kind of influence over a parish where you could make a decision, it's possible you've done things or things have happened to you that make you better formed to make that decision. Same with money. If you've like I have a friend who is, has more financial influence over the parish than I do because he has spent years growing a business and he knows more about business than I do. And that makes sense, you know? And so like you at this stage in your life might not have the not only political capital or the literal capital to make decisions, and that might just be what needs to be the case right now. Like pray and grow, and then you'll develop the temporal skills and the earthly skills and the virtues and the know it all, the chops to make those changes in the future. And then then you still got to do with prayer, because there are people who make financial decisions and personal influence decisions in the parish that do it for ill. And so you want to make sure that you're not doing that, because especially with stuff like more reverence in the liturgy, like if you do something that's not of God, he'll let it fail. And then something that is well intentioned failing, people will have a bad taste in their mouth for reverent liturgy, whatever. Yeah, or just move parishes. That's another option.
Yeah. What we could do is we could plan. So I know I mentioned kidnapping the bishop earlier, and I don't think you should do that. But maybe if there was a way that we could have like a, free bingo night type thing, and it would lure, people of a certain age, and then we like drop a box on them, and then they're trapped,
So you guys gotta stop trying to bless children.
No, not even that. Just like leave them in there. You live here now. You live in my box. What are you, hungry? I'll get the senior special for you from Golden Corral,
Nice.
And if you do that, if you feed them, and if you give them reruns of Happy Days and the Golden Girls, then they'll be peachy until it's until it's their time, and then we can bury them in the backyard. And then once we've done that, then the real work can begin. So I think if what Patrick says does not work out, you can always try the giant box trap as another thing to pursue, just in case.
You're having a bad week, but you still got it, Ethan. Let's just tell you that. See, Ethan can have a bad week, and he can still come up with some kind of Rube Goldberg-esque way to undermine what I'm saying. Not in a bad way. In a great way.
We're here. We're 27 minutes into the podcast. This is my first glass of the whiskey of the night. My second glass of whiskey is going to come during the bonus show. I think I'm just going to unleash. I think I'm just going to let loose. I'm going to say everything that I've always wanted to say that I've never said.
I was waiting to drink for the bonus show.
Okay.
But I am excited
if that's something that interests you, head on over to patreon.com/thecrunch. Join the $10 a month and up level. You can hear the bonus show. Patrick, I think that's very good advice. The one thing that I will echo is the get a cohort together. If you and a bunch of your friends, and I'm not saying friends that you have already, you have to go into your parish and make friends. If you're all going to daily mass together, if you're taking adoration hours, if you're volunteering when the church needs volunteers, then when you all present a unified front to the pastor to ask for something, then it's way more effective, because then it's like, oh, I've seen you guys have taken adoration slots, and you've helped out with the Knights of Columbus, and you've helped out at the women's group, Like if you do a bunch of things, if you take on the catechist spots that they need for CCD classes, like if you invest and it's coordinated and organized, then when you come forward and say, hey, we really love this place, and it's true, and the pastor knows that it's true. You're not just saying it. Because he sees your name on the sheets. He sees you showing up at things. Then it's like you have a leg to stand on too. So it's that is part of the influence equation, where it's like, okay, if this is really something you want to change, can you get some friends together, and can you, even if it's like 2 or 3 other people, can you start to do something? So that's the only thing that I would add. It's like that people want to show up and be like, I want the thing that I want and I want it to be easy, and I want it now. And it's like, well, that's not going to happen. So like you either have to give up on this thing or take the hard path. That's going to take some time.
There is a time to break and disrupt stuff.
Indeed.
There is a time. It usually comes with hardship and long meetings about how you suck. And
yes, indeed.
So it's you got to show that you're part of the club before you can make changes. It's like how people don't like when non-Catholics make jokes about being Catholic.
Yeah. Or when you're a pledge in a fraternity and you're like, I think we should do this differently. Everyone's like, we're going to haze you even harder now because you have been here for 3 weeks and you're trying to tell us what to do. It was me. I was the guy that got hazed.
Oh, yeah.
Well, hazed. I was never actually hazed. So there's no need to file any reports with the local police.
Hazing is so good.
Hazing is the best. I wish I had been hazed more, actually. I was in a no hazing fraternity, which I put quotes in it because they did some things that could be considered hazing, but on the whole, it was nothing compared to like the other fraternities on campus. But I wish they would have just hit me or something, like
it's part of the demasculization of society.
Yeah, truly.
Altar servers kneeling on cushions. Come on,
Patrick, is there a way that we can haze our patrons to get them more invested in our show?
I think that's a bad idea.
Other than the bonus podcast just being what
the
it
bonus
is.
podcast is hazing. We're actually hazing people during the bonus cast.
Do you want to do conspiracy theories? Do you want to do conspiracy theories next, or do the community homeownership question?
I want to do conspiracy theories.
This one's short. This one's from Patron Bagel. What's your favorite conspiracy theory right now?
Right now,
yeah,
I want to open this with a great point that I heard someone make.
Yeah.
I don't trust anyone who believes no conspiracy theories. You're telling me that you think the government is batting 1,000 and just telling us everything.
Yeah.
Like every 30 years, they come out with a new document that's like, yeah, we did that. And it's like,
yeah.
And it's like, the way the guy put it was like, the government is in charge of everybody. I'm in charge of one person, my son. And I lie to that kid all the time. Mm-hmm. I lie to that guy all the time.
It's true.
So here we are, conspiracy theories that we believe, particularly about the U.S. government, or like conspiracies in general.
I think just conspiracies in general.
Okay. Conspiracies in general. Conspiracies that we believe happened, where people got together and conspired.
I mean, I don't think... Okay, let's just define some terms, because I don't think a conspiracy theory necessitates a group of people getting together and conspiring. I do think that there can be something that's true that has been subject to cover up in an unofficial capacity. So like...
As in people conspired to cover it up?
No. Conspiring implies that like people, like a group of people got together and agreed, this is the message, this is how we're going to present this. And then they brought it forth instead of like something happening. And then over time, different groups of people acting in their own self-interest. I'm talking about like 9/11, for example. Like, I don't think a group of people got together before 9/11 and we're like, well, these guys are going to bomb this thing and we're all going to pretend like we didn't know about it.
Yeah, no,
you know what I mean?
What you're describing is a conspiracy theory. The other thing that you're describing is not a conspiracy theory. So a conspiracy theory, people misuse this all the time. People say that the conspiracy theory is
you're mansplaining to me right now, and I don't appreciate it.
This is a podcast. What the hell did you expect?
Friendship, brotherhood,
never trust.
Heard of him.
Dude, the funny I made someone so mad on the Instagram because
it's
someone
me right now.
Someone commented.
Who did you make mad on the Instagram? Which post was it?
It was the dancing around one. It's probably buried because it's at like 800,000.
That one did really well.
It did better than the first one.
I know.
It's now our most watched video
as of right now. That's
dude.
Awesome,
it's gonna hit 1 million. It's gonna hit 1 million.
Let's go. And you're so just hot.
Thanks.
I just want to. Come on.
Oh man. Anyway, but
what was the comment? I'm gonna look for it as you're explaining it.
Someone was like, John 3:16, and I said, never heard of him. And they were like, Catholics don't even know John 3:16.
That's really funny, dude. That's
never
great.
Heard of him.
Yeah. John 3:16.
Oh my god.
Never heard of him.
Anyway, conspiracy theories are theories that you come up with about people that have conspired to cover up something. So it can be like 9/11 happened and it was actually, we could have, like, the conspiracy theory that I find plausible is that the third plane was shot down or the fourth plane was shot down. That's a conspiracy theory that I find plausible, was that the plane in Philadelphia, that the
Mhm.
or the Pennsylvania plane,
Yeah,
the story about the person storming the cockpit and taking the plane down.
and the
I
audio from the
think
cell phones inside the plane was all faked. I could believe that.
not necessarily that it was faked, but that it was found and used to cover up the reality that, like, they
A
were
fighter jet
Trump.
shot down a plane of civilians.
Yes.
Yeah,
That is something that I find
yeah, likely.
realistic.
Sure.
So that would be a conspiracy theory where it's like, it's not like they were like, "Oh, the point is to kill civilians." It's like the conspiracy is, we have to cover this up. That's the
Sure.
conspiracy, and that's a theory that I have about the conspiracy.
Yeah. I guess
Now
I
it's
don't
a
wanna split.
theory. I don't believe that it's true. It's a theory that it's just a game
Sure.
theory.
I don't wanna split hairs with you about the definition of conspiracy, but I think there can be lots of different things that
I
are.
think people have to conspire for it to be conspiracy, but fine.
No. No, you
What
don't.
do words even mean, man? What do words even mean if if a conspiracy can be just anything?
I think I think in the colloquial understanding of the term conspiracy theory, it covers a ton of different things other than a group of generals sitting in a room being like, we can't tell the public that we shot down this plane of civilians. It
I
also
think it
includes.
virtually only covers conspiring together.
Okay, what's your favorite theory then? I'm going to talk about my favorite theories,
Fine, what's your favorite
and you
theory?
can. Okay,
And I'll tell you if it's a
well,
conspiracy theory.
okay, great. Gosh, I love that you have to be so right. It makes for such good audio.
I'm sorry.
Uh,
I'm not sorry about this. I'm sorry about the other times you're referring to.
no, it's okay. I don't even remember what the original question was.
What's the
Um,
theory, Ethan? What's the
what's
theory you want to?
my favorite conspiracy theory right now? So there's a few. Obviously, I think because it's local to me, the Oklahoma City bombing being something that was funded by the CIA as an attack on its own citizens that resulted in the deaths of children um, is something that's like pretty well documented, and it's just like not
Dang.
like just the idea that Timothy McVeigh was just this like lone wolf extremist
Yeah.
attacker. Um, so I think that one is like probably the one I've read the most about.
Oh, the other day I said Ted Kaczynski, and I think I meant Timothy McVeigh.
Timothy McVeigh, yeah.
Yeah.
Roger Moore was the CIA agent that like met him at a gun show and like gave him $60,000 worth of guns and weaponry, and like the ATF just happened to be like downtown on call that day, and like federal judges had received calls to like not come into work that day to the federal building. Like there's just lots of different things that kind of line up where you're just like all of the CC footage from all over like all of the buildings surrounding, like the FBI has not released the footage of like the car allegedly driving up parking or
This sounds
the
like a conspiracy, Ethan. It's funny to me that you were like, "This is not. That's not what."
I'm not.
And you're just
This
like,
is nothing
"Here's
to
like
do
the
that
government
that
decided to."
conversation. That conversation has nothing to do with what I'm talking about now. I just really believe that like you can accurately call something a conspiracy theory. For example, 9/11, because a group of people didn't sit down and say we're all going to bomb the World Trade Center and like profit off of it. But that's what
Yeah, the
happened.
cover up is the conspiracy.
But there wasn't like a cover up of 9/11.
Sure, but you think that 9/11 was a conspiracy?
I think it's a conspiracy theory to say it's in the realm of conspiracy theory to say that
Mhm.
there were a lot of parties that benefited, like the guy that bought the World Trade Center, that bought the biggest insurance
Oh,
policy of
I
all
see what you're
time up to
saying. You're
that
like,
point.
"Oh, there's a possibility that people benefited and they did it on purpose." Like they benefited knowingly.
There's a possibility that they knew about it, and there are multiple parties that could have stopped it, but because so many defense contractors and insurance companies and government officials and intelligence officials all saw that they could benefit from it, they decided to not stop it. So, but they didn't. But
Mm.
they weren't all talking. Do you see
Yeah,
what I
but that's
mean?
not like a conspiracy. Yeah, I do see what you mean.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's not. They weren't conspiring, but it is a conspiracy
Yeah.
theory.
My favorite, sorry,
Yeah,
I want to talk to you about the Oklahoma City bombing more
yeah.
off
There's a lot.
podcast so that we don't
There's a
get
lot to say.
targeted.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah. There's a lot to say.
you can't just be like the US government probably killed
Let me just
civilians and
finish
I
what
have
I was
proof.
saying. All the footage was deleted. So the FBI has all the footage, but they never released any of the footage of the van driving up because there is a second guy who was in the van with Timothy McVeigh. There's tons and tons of eyewitness reports of two men being there. But the official insistence is like, it was just Timothy McVeigh. He just drove up. He ignited the bomb. But the theory is that the second guy is like a known CIA asset and he got away. And so if they release the footage, then everyone would be able to see that the second guy, the John Doe number 2, as he's called, would actually be linked back to the United States government. So they've never released the footage, which is a problem because it's like we have all this footage of 9/11. We have all this footage of all these other things, but like we have the footage of this Oklahoma City bombing and it's still
not released,
which is a problem. So anyway, that's my thing.
I like old conspiracies.
Yeah.
Because they're simpler and they're like more rudimentary, right? So I like conspiracy theories like Henry VIII realizing that he could dissolve the monasteries and so starting Anglicanism just so he could seize 3/5 of England's land. I like that part.
I would argue with you that that's not conspiracy. That's just accurate reading of history. That's just what happened.
I like the conspiracy theory that J.P. Morgan sunk the Titanic.
I like that one. That's a good one.
That's a good one. That's not even that's also just an accurate read of history.
Yep.
I like, what other conspiracy theories do I like? The Loch Ness monster is real. That's just obviously correct.
There are some other ones that are like a bit more controversial, like the election was stolen in 2020 that I like tend to believe. More recently, am I entirely convinced that the Hamas attack on Israel was not a false flag? No, I'm not entirely convinced that it wasn't a false flag. You know, is Michelle Obama actually a man? Probably.
Did Harry Truman pick the 2 most Catholic cities in Japan?
That's a good one. That's actually probably my favorite one. Is the fact that Harry Truman was a Mason and picked Hiroshima and Nagasaki because of their high Catholic population density to bomb them. So that's a pretty good one. Anything involving the Masons is just kind of fun. And then more recently, well, actually I can't talk about that on Maine because then we'll get
oh, I'm so excited. Yeah, that's why I wanted to go through the conspiracy theory one first because we can't really go in depth because
we can't go in depth because there's one that I kind of believe that I can't say publicly. And so it's just like because there's like friends of ours will hear me talk about it. Like can you imagine if KPMG heard me talk about that? It'd be over. Like we wouldn't be friends anymore. You know?
Do I know what you're talking about? Am I supposed to know what you're talking about?
We talked about it on the bonus episode last week.
I was hammered. No, I'm just kidding. I was just sick.
All right. Anyway.
Oh yes, I do remember. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Anyway,
there's been we'll talk more about it later. But do we want to get into?
I talked to my one of my clients is from. I said this before the show. I talked to one of my clients. He's from Jordan and formerly Palestine. And he was giving me the skin. And I was like, Sammy, tell me more.
Tell me everything about Jordan.
Muslim guy, but he likes me because I'm Catholic. He's like, the Israelis hate us most. And I'm like, you're right.
It's true. You win that one. Yeah.
No, he meant us together the most. Like Muslims and Catholics. Us. That's
If you could have a Muslim Catholic guy, that would be the guy that the Israeli hates the most. Yeah.
That's why they hate the Maronite. That's why they hate Hani. That's true. No, nobody hates Hani. Everybody likes.
Nobody hates Hani, dude. I think about Hani probably. Hani is my Roman Empire. Like
Hani is my Roman Empire every day. Every day. I think about him every time I take my microphone out because it still smells like his cologne.
Really?
It's baked into it, I guess.
Okay, we need the whispers. 5 minutes. Short walk. Not bad hike.
I love him. I miss him. He's okay. He's safe. I asked him.
I know. It's good. I'm glad you DM'd him. I would imagine because he lives in Nazareth. And so it's like there hasn't really been anything. It's all been in Gaza. Like there hasn't really been anything up by Jerusalem. There has been some bombing of Tel Aviv, but like, jeez, not really. I did see a video. This was crazy. I saw a video on Twitter of like people like ducking and covering in the Tel Aviv airport because
in
there was
the
a
Ben
bomb
Gurion, yeah.
threat. And that was crazy because it's like, I've been there.
Oh,
We did talk about
that.
this last week. Yeah, I think so. But it was crazy.
Anyway, last one is the one that I'm excited for.
Yeah.
And it is, what was the topic? Read it.
Do you want to do? I'd love to get an update on the home ownership / intentional community journey. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. Michael asks, I'd love to get an update on the home ownership / intentional community journey. What have you learned? What do you hope for? What did you think about in building the house and community, the Gen Z housing market or lack thereof, and building generational homes / communities has been on my mind lately. So that is a good question. Man, and someone else also asked, like, just how is home ownership generally? It sucks, dude. I mean, it's cool. It's cool to own
You
a
got a
house.
nice house too.
Thank you. It is
It's
a nice
great.
house. It's great. I highly recommend if you're out there and you want to buy a house, just like move to a town that's like sucks because that's where I live. and houses are affordable. You know, you can get a new house in a
True.
sucky town and it probably will not cost you that much. But my mortgage is still really high. And it's just hard. It's just like hard to like have taxes and insurance and the mortgage. And then on top of that, it's all the utilities. And so it's just like so much of my income is just going to like upkeep
Housing.
of
Yeah.
the house, you know, which is fine because I recognize that it's like this is an investment and it's like it's a choice. You know what I mean? Like I would rather have a house that I own that I can do what I want to, and have less discretionary spending on other things. Like I would rather own this house and live next door to my friends than have more money to invest in a 401k. You know what I mean? Like just to me, it's more
Yeah.
important. And
Yeah, I
so
get
like
that.
I would rather have $200, $300, $400 less a month to invest that I'm spending on, you know, gas and electric and all these other insurance, all these other things. Because it's like this life that I'm building is more important than like the theoretical life that I might have when I'm 65, you know, if I
Yeah.
put however much money a month in my 401k. I recognize that like I need to invest and save for retirement, whatever, but it's like, I don't know. I'm building up my life for right now for like the next 20
Yeah.
years. You know,
But it's
I
also
don't
there's one in one sense it's true, all that stuff retirement, but there's like, oh, and if you invest like 25 instead of 26, like it's a factor of like $5 million. And it's like, yeah, that's correct. But in 40 years, $5 million is not $5 million. So
right.
don't like it's hard to
It's also assuming that the stock market continues to appreciate at the average of 4% a year every year, and that continues to outpace inflation, which just like is not like both of those things just
it's
aren't
not
true
guaranteed.
forever, you know? So
Yeah.
like if I own this house, I own this house. You know, nobody can take it from me
Well,
unless except by force. So anyway, it's hard because we've had multiple families that we've invited to live here, and pretty much without fail, all of them have decided to move somewhere else,
mm,
and that's been really tough because it's like
yeah.
there have been 3 or 4 really solid like friends of ours that buy into the vision that just had to make a decision that was right for their family where they had to move somewhere else. And so that's just been like really tough because
Yeah.
there's houses right across the street from me that are for sale for, I just looked at it, $256,000. They're nice houses, 3 bed, 2 bath, 1,600 square feet, 2-car garage, nice backyard, safe, quiet area. And it's like, man, they haven't sold. And I'm like, I wish I could just put my friends into those houses because like that's such an affordable house. You know, like you can't
Yeah.
get that everywhere. And so that's the hard part. But it's just been not right for so many people. So we've just kind of have made the best of it, which has really just been us and the family next door to us. And even the family down the street, that's also kind of they lived here first and they're the reason that we moved here. Like we haven't really seen them all that much because the wife has been in school and the husband's doing
Mhm.
like EMT training to be a firefighter. So they've just been really busy. So really, it's just been like us and our next door neighbors. And it's been really, really good. Like it's kind of astonishing to me how good it's been. Like these people, the Bishadas that live next door to us, they weren't my best friends when I moved here. Like
Mhm.
Emma wasn't best friends with the wife. I wasn't best friends with the husband. But like living here now, and I still wouldn't say that they're like the husband is my best friend, because it's just like a weird dichotomy. Like you're either my best friend
Yeah.
or you're not.
I don't
But
I
it's
don't think I don't think that persists past
yeah, 15.
childhood.
I
Yeah.
know. Yeah. But it's interesting to see how much of a difference it makes just in terms of like the livability of your life. Like the ability for Emma to go next door and just like put Peter down so that he can play with Magdalene and Iva, so that she can just have like a break for a second. Phenomenal, like we just didn't have that
Incredible. Yeah.
before. And so like even
Mhm.
those little 5-minute breaks or just going over to watch a show together, or I went to Stillwater to watch the K-State Oklahoma State game with Chet because he had a day off from work. And so we drove up there together. It's like, man, it's just kind of weird. Our lives are so integrated in a way that's not weird. It's just like it's normal to do stuff together, and there's no obligation, there's no pressure, but there is desire, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So
That
like
is
we
cool.
desire to spend time together. We desire to make food for each other. Like when Chet is gone at the fire station and Ray needs some food, she just comes over, brings the girls. Emma has made extra food, so Ray just eats really fast and then takes the girls back over to her house. And there's no expectation that like Ray pays us back, or like
Yeah.
she makes us dinner or anything like that. It's just like you're next door, your husband's gone on a 24-hour shift. You come over, and then when I'm gone traveling for crunch stuff or for whatever, or I'm gone for my job, then Emma does the exact same thing. She goes over and they feed her. And it's just like it's this amazing thing where it's like the desire, but there's no expectation. It's like, we want you over whenever you can come over. We want to hang out whenever you want to hang out. But like, if you say, hey, I need some time with my family, or like, we're really tired, or, we're busy. Okay. Yeah, no problem. And it's just like such a free
There's time.
environment
Yeah.
to live in, and you feel so supported
Mhm.
often. And I think it's really been spectacular. So it's like, even I would obviously, I hope that there's more families that come and that join us, and we're just trying to build it up and make it to be more than what it is now. But even if it's just two
Yeah.
families, it's quality of life is miles better than what it was when it was just we were living on our own. So it's been
Yeah.
really cool.
That's cool to know. Yeah, it's like we're working through we mentioned the Arcadia project to some folks that are running the ministry that I told you about here. And they were like they were really interested in that idea. And it's like they're trying to do something similar um in spirit, not necessarily in
Mm,
execution, where it's
hmm.
like they've kind of made their home into a place where people come together. So they run like
Right.
they have like 3 get-togethers every week at their house,
It's
and
just
sometimes
insane.
4.
Yeah.
It is insane. It's to the point where, by the way, if you wanna donate to this mission, DM me and I can let you know how. But they're looking to purchase another house.
Patreon.com/the crunch. If you want to
Yeah, and
donate
I'll
to this
I'll help
mission.
I'll help buy 'em a house. But it's like their idea is to, like, put together like kind of a focused missionary style house where it's like younger single missionaries live there
Hmm. Hmm.
and they host these events, and like they kind of give up their, because these two are doing this, their entire family life and their child's life is centered around people
Hmm.
coming over for men's group, for women's group, for single women's group. Like, it's really cool what they're doing. But it's also great because their lives have kind of become intertwined with ours, right? So Phoebe watches her son while she's working on ministry stuff, and it's been good because it's like I Michael's job Michael's job goes to paying for the ministry. He
Hmm.
paid for a 130 person retreat out of pocket. Um, an incredible guy, and he just texted me actually.
Flex.
And my job goes to my wife staying home so she can watch their kids. It's kind of cool because we're like pooling resources, right? And then like I'm helping them with. Sorry, I have a frog in my throat. I'm helping them with like fundraising stuff because that's a skill that I have. So instead of just like we're pooling resources, community life, that's really cool, and I recommend it.
Yeah, absolutely.
If
I
you can
think
do what
it's
Ethan's doing, it's much better because then there's like
yeah.
because
If you
we have
can
to
find
drive to their
someone
house,
if you can
you know.
find
Like,
someone that you're friends with that you can stand, you know,
yeah,
it's like, or maybe a better phrase is like if you would let your kids go over to their house and not think twice about it, you know, like if you had
yeah,
no concerns about like what would happen, you know,
hmm
then it's like just take a chance, you know, and like make that risk because it's weird, you know, that like, but this is now it's just like normal, you know. Now I just like live in a house next door to this other family and we just kind of do everything together. And it's like,
kind of vibe.
Emma's like, do we do too much with them? And I'm like, no, we live next to them. What do you like? Do you expect us to temper that? Like, how would you? Because I see them every time I go outside. You know,
Yeah,
like we see them every night after dinner. We go on walks together through town. Um, and so it's just like, and it's not weird. That's the cool thing about it. Like it hasn't turned into like a strange thing. Like we still hang out with other people. They have people over and we're not invited. We have people over and they're not invited. It's not like just super involved in everything all the time. It's just like,
yeah,
um, again, if you come at it from the right approach, it's just like, this is an opportunity for us to rely on each other when we need it and
yeah.
not
And
like
it
an
could turn
obligation
into
to
something that's not necessarily healthy. There could be aspects of it that aren't healthy. There could be
totally.
aspects of it that are there's conflict. There could
Mm,
be, but like that's the
crime,
risk for the
intrigue,
reward,
the spicy
right?
section of the book talk shelf.
It's book talk like TikTok. I need you
I
to understand that.
I do
I
understand
hated that.
what
I read
I
that
know
and I
what
said,
book
I
talk
hate this.
is.
I
Yeah.
hate this. Anyway, it's it's the risk of living in community is that people have faults, they gossip, right? People have
Mhm.
faults, they get angry and they hold
Mm,
grudges and
mhm.
they yell or
They
they
they see more of you than the rest of the world sees.
Mhm.
And that's scary because it's vulnerable. And so it's like they see you at your very best and they also potentially see you at your very worst. It's like, well, that's that's just like a risk that you take by opening your life up to someone
Yeah.
else. You
And
know, that's
and
true
and
in
like the
marriage, it's true in like
yeah.
community with family life. Oh, yeah.
And community life is worse today because of this dynamic where when we see the not even just like the broken but like the sinful, when we see the evil that people can
Mhm.
do, like we decide to shut them out. My family suffered from that a lot when we were kids, like when um some of you guys know like the history of my dad, right? Like we won't go into it, it's not too awful, but like when some people found out like what was going on, um they just wouldn't let their kids, I mean obviously not letting them come over, that makes sense, but like
Mhm.
not hang out with us at all, like, not
Mhm.
invite us over, like,
Yeah.
ostracizing my mom, and, like and that kind of isolation is safe. I now don't have to deal with the kind of family I don't have to deal with the family who has someone in it that would do that kind of thing, right? And,
Yeah.
like, that's a lot easier when you live, neighborhoods away from each other, right?
Right.
It's harder to deal with when you live down the street from each other.
Mhm.
But because it's hard, because you're stuck together, that means you push through things you otherwise wouldn't. And,
Yeah.
there's there's no half measure, right? There's no like I'm half your friend and like if something bad happens, then I don't have to see you again because we live 20 minutes away from each other. So it's easier. Right. And
Mhm.
so like it's really risky to go all in with another family to like say I'm with you. I'm with you like as a it's hard especially to do that with a spouse, right? But it seems like just my one I spent 2 nights at the Stevies. And it was great because Ray's husband was at the station, and she's like, "Can I just like come over and hang out?" And she did, and she came and hung out. She took the baby monitor with her, which is great because like otherwise
Mhm.
you would not be able to do that because
Yeah.
you're not like you're not
Right.
near the baby. You
Yes.
can't just go down the street. You can only really only go next door realistically. but she got to have adult social time,
Mhm.
which otherwise she'd be alone in a house by herself with a sleeping baby,
Yep.
and that sucks. And so like we were made for this, and we should have more of it. I'm proud of you,
Indeed.
man. You've done something great. It wasn't the huge. It's not yet the huge community that it's going to be, but I'm proud of you for making that step.
Yeah, the first step is the most important one because now we can build from here, and we're in an area where there is
Yeah,
literally a lot of building going on,
yeah. A lot
and
of red dirt
so
being moved.
a lot of red dirt,
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of houses going up. House just sold down the street for like 225. So if anybody is looking for a a neighborhood, you'll have to go through an intense vetting process because you are all freaks, and I'm not going to let any of you live near my kids. Um,
There will be background checks and
There will be
fingerprinting.
there will be background checks, there'll be
A talent
fingerprinting.
show.
Yeah. Oh, dear. Anyway, so, yeah, so if you have more questions just about that whole thing, you can reach out to me on Discord. I probably won't answer unless you're a patron, and so, because I'm just trying to be only active in the Patreon chat these days because
Oh
it's
yeah, you're trying to be
yeah.
exclusive. Yeah, no. The general is getting as our Instagram followers come in. It's people who aren't acquainted with the show. They're just people are
Yeah,
saying GM friends, and it's like, nah, listen, this
yeah.
ain't that kind of Discord.
Which is cool, but if you're not active in our Discord, it's really turned into a pretty cool community. There's a lot of stuff getting
Yeah,
shared and a
yeah.
lot
The
of people
channels are
sharing prayer
always
requests, a lot of things
yeah.
being discussed. Patrick and I hang out typically in the Patreon sections of the Discord, but occasionally we'll hop into the episode discussions just to chat about the things we talk about here. But if you want to meet some like-minded people, maybe try to build up some community in
Yeah.
your own area, the Discord's a great
My
place to start.
notifications are on for the Patreon, so that's like that
Nice.
kind of tells you how it is.
Yeah. bit.ly/crunch discord. And if you would like to support us, we really need better microphones. We really need better
Oh, I
cameras.
got one. I got a better microphone. I just haven't set it up yet. The
Oh,
microphone that
okay.
guy offered came in, so we need to
Patrick
get Ethan a better microphone.
Patrick does stuff without telling me. And if you want to force
Someone
Patrick
offered
to
me a
tell me
microphone.
stuff, you go to patreon.com/thecrunch
I totally told
and,
you about this.
and you can support us. And then we can pay for an assistant that makes Patrick tell me stuff. And that's the dream. He did tell me about the microphone. It was just a while ago.
Do you
Um,
think, Ethan? Do you think life with me, working with me, would be better or worse if I had an assistant?
Better, 100%. No
Really?
question. Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. Because I know that if I told something to the assistant, "Hey, Patrick needs to do this," then the assistant would make you do it
Or just do it for me?
or do it for you, and things would not languish in no man's land.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not important or like I'm not rich, important, or like intellectually powerful enough to need an assistant. Like Scott, like Dr. Hahn has an assistant that reads all of his emails and like responds and grades his papers. And so he just
If
thinks
I
and
could
talks.
monetize how bothered I am, then you would be important enough.
I feel, I guess I don't feel that bad because
No, you
otherwise I'd
don't.
change, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's more of a bit. I am changing a little bit. I had a long conversation with Phoebe about this, my lovely wife about this,
About what?
about like about doing things about my when I say I'm gonna do something, I like have every intention of doing it. It's not that I'm like lying, it's
Mhm.
that it just floats away.
Yeah.
And it's possible I just need drugs. It's possible I just need pharmaceuticals to make to fill the plug the hole in the leaky bucket.
Here's a little drug that you need. The word no. Probably.
Possibly,
Yeah.
but some things you can't say no to, right? Like, hey, we really need to get our driver's license updated to the state we've lived in for 6 months.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
do
that's a
need to
good
do that.
point. It just goes out of my brain.
Gosh, that's crazy. Yeah, we'll get you an assistant. Patreon.com/thecrunch is the place to go if you want to get Patrick an assistant, but really get me a better microphone. That's the place to go. And we'll keep talking about this in the bonus episode, which is also patreon.com/thecrunch. Patrick, do you have anything else for the people before we sign off?
Does anyone know if they're if there's like volunteer assistants, you know, like pastors get them. The old ladies like willing to do paperwork and answer emails for the pastor. Does anyone know of anyone who would do volunteer everything for me? I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. No longer.
Thank you all for listening. Please pray for us. We will be praying for you, and we will see you all next time.